one of the most mysterious questions in general in theistic traditions is how and why does God descend to the world? So broadly speaking, if we have some understanding of divinity, some understanding of spirituality, so a basic understanding is that we are currently in this world, but above this world is another bigger reality. And this may be called by different names, but we could broadly call this the material world is the place where we are living, and the spiritual world is where God, Krishna is living. And normally our focus is on this world. We have desires, we interact with the world based on primarily two forces. One is needs. We need food, we need air, we need water. And then that's not all that drives us in life. We want more. So beyond that, we have desires. So based on our desires and needs, we pursue various things in the world. Are all of you able to see through that? If you are not able to see, you can move a little bit this side. Now, while we are pursuing desires and needs in this world, also upon us come some things. That is, upon us, we may say, from the world may come troubles. The red color is it? Upon us may come troubles and may come threats. So, the troubles means that something which is already right now a problem. A threat is something that may become a problem in the future. Mm-hmm. So now, sometimes desires, needs, troubles and threats are all related. That if a need is not being fulfilled, that's a trouble for us. If there's a famine and there's no food available, then that's a trouble. So these are related. But basically, in terms of what we do in the world and what the world does to us, that these two broad interactions. So now when all this is going on, most of us are normally caught in the world. I have to get this done, I have to prevent this from happening, I have to get this person to do these things. It's only rarely that amid all this point, our vision goes upwards. So generally, our vision goes upward when we are not able to get things done. We will understand God's role also at multiple levels. Let's say most of us go around our life. How many of us think that, okay, I would like to go to the police station for a casual visit? No. Generally, it's reassuring to know that a police station is there. And if there is any problem, I can call the cops. That I can report a complaint over there. But a police station is not a place where we just casually visit. So at a basic level, when we look upward, we may have the vision which is law-centered. Law-centered means that things are not going right in my life. Things are not as they should be. So therefore, maybe I should turn towards a higher being who is expected to maintain order in the world. So if a neighbor is troubling us too much, if there is crime becoming high in our neighborhood, then we may want to report it to the police so that the police can do something about it. So there can be a law-centered approach to God. Mm-hmm. Now, at a level of a law-centered approach, it is that there is something wrong over here. And that's why I am coming to register a complaint. But, so we are outstation and we come back and we find out that our home has been robbed. Then we may rush to the police station and give a complaint. But if it is night and we are at home and suddenly we hear somebody is breaking down our door and banging loudly or they're pushing, we hear some mysterious footsteps in our house. Then, if we are all alone, we decide that this is an ongoing robbery right now, at the time when we want the police to come. So there are different levels of interaction. Or if the police get a tip-off that, okay, at this particular place, a particular deadly robber who has been doing a series of robberies or crimes or killings or whatever, that person is going to strike. And the police may come directly with it. So the idea is that there can be, and when there's a little trouble, there's one robbery, okay, the citizens may go and report to the police. But if there is a gang war going on or there is a huge attack going on and the police comes swooping down. So that way, if we have this law-centered vision of God, then the avatar descends when there is a time of great emergency. Like normally we go to God, but there are times when God comes to this world. So in the law-centered approach, the idea is we may go to God, but sometimes in the case of great emergency, or you could say a huge crime, so there is minor crime and major crime. There are different things that happen. So when Krishna descends, or when Narasimhadev descends, at that time there is huge torment and torture going on, not just at an individual level but at a societal level. There is an autocratic, tyrannical king who is causing immense harm to everyone. And at that time, the person has to, there's an emergency, they have to come there. So Krishna comes. Now Krishna doesn't have to come. At least people feel, Krishna, oh God, you have to help. And that's the time when the Lord descends. Now this is one way of understanding. But let's look forward. Who would like to read the next paragraph?
My dear Lord, what you do at crucial moments in history, you are also ready to do during the traumatic moments within each human heart. In many ways, the human heart is a microcosm of the world. Just as in the world, your position is not always prominent at the manifest level. Though you are always omnipotent, the same applies to the human heart.
Yes. So now, when you consider the concept of avatar, there's the spiritual level of reality, there is the material level of reality, and there are occasional spiritual emergencies when the Lord descends to this world. The Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. So the avatar descends at particular times. But then the question may come, okay, the avatar descended at that time, but what about all the times in between? Now, I recently had to do a tooth extract. So I was talking with a friend in America. And I was telling him, extracting a tooth is quite painful. So my dentist was also telling me that there are many different pains depending on how the extraction goes. A tooth extraction can be quite painful. And nobody, in fact, it's in English, often it's considered like a metaphor for irritating or painful thing. I had to visit a dentist. So the idea is that it's painful. So I was telling him it's quite painful. And he was telling me that actually he had to do eye surgery. And that was hugely painful. So at that time I was thinking, okay, which pain is more? Is there a pain of as objectively looking up, so they say if you have a thigh surgery, that's very painful. If it's a bone injury, it's painful. So which pain is the worst pain? Which pain is the worst pain? Whichever we are going through. So, the nature of the mind is that you always feel, what I'm going through is terrible. And yes, so from that perspective, we feel there's a constant emergency in the world. So the Lord should constantly be there, isn't it? So the avatar comes yuge, comes intermittently, but we feel there are so many things wrong in the world, and we feel that why is the Lord not coming here at this particular time? So the point is that the Lord, what He does in the world, He's also ready to do in the heart. So broadly speaking, when Krishna says, Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So the word dharma has many different meanings, but one way to understand the word dharma in a fairly inclusive way is that dharma is harmony or harmonious belonging. That means that we are all parts of some larger whole. So whatever larger whole we are a part of, we have a dharma to that whole. So for example, right now you are attending this talk. So if you are attending this talk, then your dharma is that you keep your phone silent and you pay attention to the speaker, or at least don't chit chat with others so that others are distracted. That's the way you harmoniously belong to the whole. Now, but dharma is not only one way. Dharma is two ways. If we are belonging to a larger whole, the larger whole also, if we are doing something within the larger whole also has to do something for us. So, for example, if you are expected to pay attention to this class, then I should also be prepared enough to speak something that is worth your paying attention to. So dharma is both individual to collective and collective to individual. So if you come here expecting a spiritual talk and I go on a political rant over here, okay, this community or this country or this political party, you will start thinking, should I be even sitting here or should I go away? Isn't it? So dharma is both ways. And this applies everywhere. Say if you're driving a vehicle on the road, then we have to follow the rules of the road transport system. That is dharma. But then if we are following the rules, that's the individuals belonging to the collective and contributing to the collective, then the road transport system should also be such that it should also be fair to us. If you're not going above the speed limit, and suddenly we should not be pulled over unnecessarily. We should not be fined if you're not done anything wrong. Mm-hmm. If you are, without doing anything wrong, we are given a fine, then we say that is not fine. Something is wrong over here. So the idea is, dharma is both individual to collective and collective to individual. And when Krishna talks about dharmasya glani, when dharma goes off, dharma declines, it can be both ways. So the individual may not be contributing to the whole in a proper way, or the whole may not be supporting the individual in the proper way. So both parts are important. So when you talk about dharma, there is the individual dharma, and this is what Krishna has talked about earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, or rather Arjuna is asking Krishna, Ruchami tvam dharma sammudha chetaha. He's saying, Krishna, I do not know what is the right thing for me to do. The right thing means in that context, the right way to belong, the right larger whole to belong to. I'll explain this point a little later, but let's start with the concept. Individual means how the individual contributes to the whole. So, but then there is a collective dharma. The collective dharma is basically what is Krishna talking about in this particular verse, 4.8. The collective dharma is basically how the whole supports the individual. So here when Krishna is saying that I will paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya chatushkrita. Here he is talking about I will do reform or revolution at the collective level. So it's going back to the starting police example that if and one individual is committing crime, another individual is committing crime, then the police have to come and penalize, punish those particular wrongdoers. That is the individuals not doing that dharma. But if it is happening that the crime becomes so much that the police are afraid of the criminals. I was in Chicago and we had gone for a program, and the devotees were telling me this is a very high crime area. And all of Chicago is not, Chicago is many parts a great city, but some parts are very high crime. And they say we are going to this program, we make sure that our car is in good condition, our petrol is fueled. We don't stop anywhere along the way. Just enter into the area, we go right inside the program venue. After the main door of that particular place is locked, then we open our car. They say that if we call the police if something goes wrong, they say sometimes the police reply, why did you even go there? Even we don't go there. So there should not be lawless land like that in any city. I'm just joking. If there's a really emergency, police go there. But in America, it's a very left-oriented country. Yes, do a slight detour. If we consider, as in the individual may not contribute to the whole sometimes, or the whole may not support the individual. So you have heard these terms, political left and political right. So the political right is more concerned that the individual be responsible. It's the individual responsibility. The system works, you have to fit, you have to adapt, you have to grow up. So for example, if in your college there are not enough say gadgets for doing particular experiment, or there is not sufficient technological support, then the faculty may say, you adjust, you come over time or you adjust the timing. So the right is all about the individuals fitting into the system. You take responsibility, don't complain about the system. You just fit in and grow. Now the left is more concerned about the collective's duty to the individual. And they may say the system itself is wrong. And they may say we have to have collective change. There might be campaigning, there might be agitation, and there can be reform. Reform is more gradual and incremental, or there is a revolution, where there is destruction and then replacement, hopefully. But the idea is, Dharma has space for both the right and the left. Because sometimes the individuals need to adjust. There's nothing in no place in the world where everything is perfect. But just because something is imperfect, that does not mean everything that is imperfect is the same level. Something is imperfect and bearable, and something is imperfect and unbearable. Isn't it? So things may also sometimes the left needs to be active in the sense that you have to have change at the societal level. So if there is a lot of lawlessness, then at the top the government may decide we want to replace the police chief. We may want to revamp the whole police force. So or if there are an army may come into a particular place and they will just attack the crime lords and will destroy the crime lords, and they will install more competent police people who don't have so much fear of the criminals over there. So the idea is that there sometimes a collective change is required. And when Krishna descends to the world, he comes to bring about this collective change. Krishna is focusing on, he's saying that when I descend, the avatar's prime, you could say, when the avatar descends, the avatar's purpose is to bring about collective dharma. So there is a timely purpose for the avatar, and that is to establish collective dharma. So for example, a tyrannical king like Kamsa was ruling, and Krishna neutralized Kamsa. Krishna restored Ugrasen, who was far more virtuous as the king of the Yadus. Similarly, now Krishna helped Arjuna to remove Duryodhana. So we'll discuss that a little later. But generally, when Krishna descends, his purpose is to bring about a collective change. However, that is not the only purpose of Krishna. The avatar's descent has a timely purpose, but the avatar's descent also has a timeless purpose. And the timeless purpose, so collective dharma is established. The established means force is used. If somebody has to fight, there is fight that is there. And Krishna establishes what we can call as law and order. But at the same time, Krishna has a timeless purpose, and that is centered on individual. Now the individual dharma cannot be enforced. It cannot be established. It has to be inspired. So the Gita's vision of God is a very fascinating vision of God. Earlier I started with the metaphor of citizens and police. So citizens are in trouble, the police come and help at that time. Now we often talk of God as the protector. So if we consider our conception of God, there is a significant difference, say, between the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. In the Ramayana, Lord Ram is the hero. He is the greatest fighter. There is an amazing supporting cast. Like there is Hanuman who comes in, and sometimes in a movie you heard the word cameo. Cameo means somebody comes in for a very short role. But if there's one star or another star comes in for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and everybody talks about that star only. So, although Ram is the hero, the most popular section about the Ramayana is Sundarkand. And Sundarkand there is no Ram. Only in the beginning, Lord Ram is sending Hanuman, and he is at the end Hanuman is returning and informing Ram. So Hanuman is like the show stealer. So in the Ramayana. But the idea is that still Lord Ram has a significant role. It is Lord Ram who kills Ravana ultimately. So when we talk about God, we may envision God as the protector. And this is a common theme, God will protect us. And that is a valid theme. But the protector theme is that then we are like citizens. That we are ordinary citizens and the police will come and protect us. But if you look at the Gita's vision, conception of God, especially in the Gita, Krishna is not telling Arjuna that I will defeat all the enemies. You just sit and watch. It's like establishing dharma is not a spectator sport. Spectator sport means you sit and watch the spectacle. So Krishna says, you do it. So the Gita's vision of God is not just the protector, but it is as an empowerer. So here the vision is like God is like the police and we are like the citizens. But in the Gita's vision, it is like each one of us is meant to be a warrior. And Krishna is the commander. So Krishna doesn't say that I am the hero and you watch what heroics are. Krishna says, yes, I am the supreme hero. You join my team and I will empower you to become a hero. Just like Krishna tells Arjuna, you fight and attain victory. So similarly, Krishna's vision is that we, each one of us, become empowered. So sometimes Krishna fixes the collective himself. And those are dramatic moments in human history. But throughout history, Krishna can empower each one of us to do our individual dharma better. And that in that way, Krishna is always there with us. So let's read on the next part. Who would like to read the next paragraph?
O Lord, empower me so that I can take charge of placing you in charge of my heart. Please, O Lord, I beg you fervently, make your presence manifest within my heart and crush the many deceptive and destructive desires that have taken root.
Yes. So the idea here is that Krishna wants each one of us to be a part of his team. When Krishna says, Mamaivam Sho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhutaha Sanatana, he says, you are my part always. Now this is not just a philosophical truth that Mamaivam Sho Jiva Loke, that I am a part of Krishna. And Sanatana means always. This is a truth and it's an important philosophical truth. But that philosophical truth has a psychological implication. It has a psychological consequence or an impact. What is that? What is that? I will always have a part in Krishna's plan. If I am always a part of Krishna, that means I will always have a part in Krishna's plan. So, if somebody is a part of the Indian cricket team, then if they are a part of the playing 11, say, then they will have a part in the team. Now, what is the exact part? Then they have to talk with the captain. Somebody might be say that, okay, I am a fast bowler. That's the broad role that they have. But say if somebody might be a fast bowler, somebody might be a spin bowler, somebody might be a wicket keeper, and you could say there are broad roles that are there for different players. But the captain's plan and the situation's need, both can cause the roles to shift slightly. That sometimes there may be a fast bowler who may normally open the attack. And a particular time the captain may say, I want you fully available at the middle or at the end. So the specific contribution may shift. Sometimes somebody might be a bowler, but they have to bat. And that batting may play a very important role in that. Somebody might be a batsman, but if the bowlers are injured, the batsman might be called to bowl. Isn't it? So when we talk about roles, what happens is, if you consider a role in a team, at one level it's fixed. There is a fixed role in the sense that this is your broad place. This is what you are meant to do. But it is also flexible. It is not just fixed, it is also flexible. So broadly you can say fixed will be based on you could say the talent or the training of the person. Talent and training of the person. That somebody is a opening batsman, somebody is a middle order batsman. Like that, talent and training, they have something. But the flexibility will be based on the captain's plan, or we could say more captain's strategy at that particular time. What do we want to do? Sometimes the very aggressive batsman we are told, you only bat in the middle, you come in the beginning. You want to just overwhelm the opposite batsman, opposite bowlers. You just attack and attack. Sometimes they say that we'll wait for you to come at the end because we need somebody to attack at the end. So there could be captain's strategy, and there could also be the situation's need. So basically, if we understand this point that we have a role in Krishna's plan. So now, as far as if we consider the Indian cricket team, there are only 11 people, and 11 people from how much 140, 100 plus crore, 120 crore people. That just the chance seems to be so so minuscule of somebody even being in the team. And anytime they'll be thrown out of the team. But as far as Krishna's team is concerned, we all have a secure place in it. Sanatana. We will never be thrown out of the team. At the same time, while we will never be thrown out of the team, but we may be thrown around up and down in the team. So, because based on how we contribute, that may change. So, in Krishna's team, if we consider, we are thrown out, that is them. But up or down, that means somebody gets a more prominent role. If a bowler is bowling well, that's what, okay, you bowl more overs. And if a bowler is not bowling well, you say, okay, you take rest now. If you don't take rest, everybody else have to run to catch the ball wherever it is being hit. So the idea is that everyone has to contribute their part properly. So for us, that we are always a part of Krishna's team, every one of us. So when Krishna comes, if you see the specific Gita's context, till now I talk about these two separate things. That there is the individual dharma and there is the collective dharma. But it is in the context of the Gita, Krishna is using Arjuna's individual dharma to establish the collective dharma. Isn't it? Arjuna, you fight. And you fight, you play your role well. And by that, we will change the collective situations. So now, that may or may not happen all the time. So the individual's role may be, I can't change the system, but I will maximize what good I can do in the system. So like there might be a captain who might have very rigid, this is the only way things are to be done. And the captain is not very flexible, not open to new ideas. The team player can constantly complain this captain is terrible. But okay, that person is a captain. You play well and the team player plays well, one day the player can become the captain. So now when I'm talking about captain, I'm talking about the collective as what a collective we might be. There might be a part of a school club or a college club. We might be a part of the college project team. There might be a leader who might not be good. But each one of us, by contributing to our individual dharma, what will happen is that we may get a bigger role. So Arjuna's role was, in one sense, individual dharma needs to be done. But individual dharma will contribute not just to keep playing his role, but it will also lead to collective dharma. That there will be a more virtuous king coming over there. Collective dharma will become better. So when Krishna descends to this world, his point is to inspire each one of us to do our dharma better. If we are in a college, if we are in a family, if we are in a spiritual community, if we are in a country, wherever we are, we try to belong better to that. Belong better to that larger whole. So that is, Krishna inspires individual dharma. And we all have desires that can go wrong. Our desires can take us in an unhealthy direction. So our desires can be at a basic level disruptive. Disruptive means that, say, all of you are hearing this class, but there's one particular person who is constantly looking at their phone is beeping, and then what happens? That's disruptive. Nobody else can do anything because the phone is beeping, the phone is ringing. So our individual desires can like that be disruptive. Now, when Srila Prabhupada was giving a talk in America, at that time, it was early days, 1967, So at that time there was this counterculture. And the counterculture meant that people had this idea that if we take drugs, we'll go high. So there was a drug called LSD. And they had given a special new name to that drug. Like, there are acronyms. And then you can redefine the acronyms. Like somebody's a PhD. So we often say that somebody has a PhD, the perpetual humility deficiency. Now, of course, it doesn't have to happen like that. But people can become very proud. We always say ego. When somebody has ego, what happens? EGO. Ego edges God out. That it leaves no role for God. So like that, they had given a new name for LSD. LSD what was? The League of Spiritual Discovery. So anybody who takes LSD, they are joining the special League of Spiritual Discovery. And then, you may have seen in some traditional temples, that especially the temples of the goddess, like some people just get possessed and they start dancing, start moving very rapidly like dervishes, and it feels they're possessed by something. Have you ever seen like this phenomena? In Bengal it is there especially, but in other places also it is there. So when these people are possessed, they will behave in like weird ways, but nobody stops them at that time. Because it's like, maybe they're putting themselves in danger or somebody else in danger is a different thing. But generally, the goddess is manifesting through them or whatever. Now, many people fake this also. But the idea is that when people would take LSD, their idea was that after taking LSD, when people would speak something, oh, you are an LSD saint. And it is like through LSD you get access to some other domain of wisdom. And from that domain something mystical, some great word of wisdom are coming out. Now that person might be speaking complete nonsense. But if a person is coming down from LSD, be quiet and listen to that person. So when some people would just, when they were taking LSD, and they would just come for the program and they would start becoming disruptive. And Prabhupada said, keep calm and let them play out their particular LSD-induced ideas. So one time, one person suddenly got up and he said, I want to speak. And clearly, by the way he was talking, he was high on LSD, he was high on drugs. So Prabhupada very calmly said, question answers after the talk. He says, no, I want to speak. Prabhupada, question answers after the class. And there was, at that time, the devotees had created like a slightly higher wooden platform. They didn't have a Vyasasan. A slightly higher wooden platform on which Prabhupada would sit and the audience would sit below. So this particular hippie got up and came and sat right next to Prabhupada. And now Prabhupada looked at him, he looked at Prabhupada, he looked at the audience. And Prabhupada continued speaking. Prabhupada noticed nobody was able to pay attention also. And again this hippie said, I want to speak. So then Prabhupada just picked a karta and started doing kirtan. And somehow that sound of the kirtan calmed that hippie down. So then everybody did kirtan. And then after that, the kirtan got over. It was now. At that time, Prabhupada didn't have much money, so there's not like an elaborate feast of prasad. Prabhupada would just get 1 or 2 apples, he would cut the apples and give small pieces of apples to everyone. So one of the persons who was becoming a devotee, he brought a knife and apple. So Prabhupada cut the apple. And to everyone's amazement, Prabhupada stretched out his hand. On that hand, one side was the knife, the other side was the apple. And when he stretched it out, everybody felt completely silent. And everybody was looking at Prabhupada, looking at the apple, looking at the knife, looking at Prabhupada, looking at the apple, looking at the knife, looking at Prabhupada. And then he extended his hand. And everybody heaved a sigh of relief when he picked up that apple. So Prabhupada stayed extremely calm even in such very provocative situations. There's another time when there was one boy called David who was staying with Prabhupada. he suddenly went high on drugs, so he attacked the Prabhupada. So our desires can go from being disruptive to even being destructive. And when this happens, then we don't contribute to the whole. Like in football, sometimes the goalkeeper is supposed to stop the ball. But sometimes what happens is, the goalkeeper is so enthusiastic that the goalkeeper hits the ball into the goal, into the net. It's called a self-goal. Isn't self-goal is considered like the worst kind of insult. And sometimes the goalkeeper might make a self-goal. Sometimes the players might make a self-goal. Isn't it? So now if you consider that would be destructive. So like that, all of us, based on the kind of desires we have, we may create a lot of disruption. And then what may happen is, what we can contribute to the whole, that may become much less. So adharma can mean that collectively things are going wrong or individuals are going wrong. Now often dharma is equated with duty or morality, and that is true at one level. But those are only partial understandings. That everyone say there is morality. We could say morality in terms of how we drive. If we are paying for a product, or if you are buying a product, then we should pay for it. Or if somebody is selling a product, they should not be charged exorbitant prices. That is dharma and morality. So generally, when adharma happens, that leads to disruption. That can lead even to destruction. So for all of us, Krishna is there to empower us to perform our dharma better in whatever role we might be in. And when we chant Hare Krishna and practice Bhakti, what happens is these destructive desires decrease, and gradually the disruptive desires also decrease. And if we consider the troubles that come in our life, many of the troubles that are there, I talked about troubles and threats earlier, so we can put both troubles and threats here together. The troubles and threats that we get in our life, now we could say some of them come from the world, but many of them come from our own actions. Or some of them, what happens is, it's like one layer comes from the world, another layer comes from our own actions. Then they become doubled. Like something bad happens to us, and our reaction to it makes it 10 times worse. So somebody insults us, somebody speaks terribly to us, somebody hurts us. That's bad. And when they hurt us, then we hit back at the other person. We physically assault that person, and then everything becomes worse after that. So quite often, the way to do our dharma better is at the basic level, our disruptive and destructive desires decrease. So when Krishna descends to the world, when Krishna gives us the message of the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna gives us the process of Bhakti, this is not just meant for otherworldly purposes, but it can also bring about this worldly transformation. That transformation is that Krishna helps us, empowers us to do our dharma better. Let's move forward. I'd like to read the next paragraph. Where's the mic? Yeah, please.
Due to such unwholesome desires, the devotional desires in my heart have weakened and feel threatened. Please, O Lord, strengthen those desires by your presence and benevolence, so that my heart can become your throne, and thereafter I can play my part in offering this world, or at least offering one corner of this world to you.
So now, our devotional desires can be understood in two different ways. If we consider, say, we belong to various homes. So we may belong to a family, we may belong to a community, we may belong to a state, We may belong to a profession. We may belong to a particular age group. We may belong to a particular income level. Like that, we can have many different belongings. So, as a student, you have particular role to play. As a son in a family, you have particular role to play. As a citizen of a country, you have particular role to play. So, like that, with each of these larger wholes, we have our relationship in terms of dharma. So, we do something for the larger whole, and the larger whole does something for us. And in that way, we belong to various wholes. So, when dharmasya glani starts happening, it can be in both ways. That whatever larger whole we belong to, that larger whole is very disruptive. So, I have devotee friends who are in Ukraine, or who are in Ukraine. And now I met a couple of them, some of them in Canada, I met some of them in UK. And then they had a flourishing life over there, emotional life, professional life. I met one person in Canada, he was a doctor, like a heart surgeon in Ukraine. And now in Canada, he's driving an Uber. Because the Ukrainian medical degree is not recognized in Canada. And to again do that degree, it requires a lot of money. And does it have that money? So now that's a terrible situation, we can say. But he's no longer a part of that medical community. But he is now in a safer place. So sometimes when we belong to one particular larger whole, and that larger whole is very disruptive, then we may decide, I no longer want to belong to this whole. I would rather go and belong to some other whole. And that's fair. And sometimes we may decide, I want to stay here and I want to fix and change this larger whole. So some Indians may decide, I don't want to stay in India, I want to go to America. Some Indians will say, I want to stay in India and I want to work to change things better in India. So we often belong to various dharma, we belong to larger wholes, and we have dharmas in connection with those larger wholes. And that's how dharma is multi-level. Now, among all of these wholes, the largest whole that contains all other wholes, that is Krishna. That is God. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattaha sarvam pravartate. Everything comes from me and everything is sustained by me. There are two different things over here. Krishna is not just the largest whole. Krishna is also the whole. Krishna is also the collective that sustains all other collectives. It's not just greater in size, but Krishna is what enables all other collectives to play their part. So, for example, we have parents. So, naturally, we belong to a family. Now, when a newborn baby is there, the mother offers her breast milk to the newborn baby. And that is one of the most intimate expressions of love. When the mother offers her breast milk, that is the mother's love for the baby. At the same time, is that all that is going on over there? The mother does not do anything special to produce milk in her breasts at that time. The same God who sent a child through her womb into the world also sends milk in her breasts for that child. So, Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva, Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mamadeva Deva. The idea here is the mother and the father are individuals in their own right. And their love is there, no doubt, and we cannot deny or downplay that. But at the same time, it is not just their love. It is Krishna's love manifesting through them. So, Krishna sustains all larger wholes that we are a part of. And Krishna sustains us in various ways through those larger wholes. So, when we talk about bhakti, At one level, we could say bhakti is that it is we serve Krishna and then Krishna empowers or protects us. We do something for Krishna and Krishna does something for us. So bhakti can be seen as that there's the largest whole and I am belonging to the largest whole. However, a devotee can even belong to each one of these wholes by understanding that by doing the service, I'm actually serving Krishna. And also, whatever is being given to me through this whole, that is also given to me by Krishna. So this is a spiritual vision of things. So, if our country is threatened, then you will say this is just mundane. I don't have to do anything about it. That's one way of looking at it. But other ways, ultimately this country is also sustained by Krishna. And I have got some facilities, I have got some culture, I have got some legacy for this country. And if I see my service to my country as a part of my service to Krishna, then that is a more inclusive vision. So from this perspective, when we talk about bhakti, bhakti has two distinct aspects to it. One is bhakti is transcendental. Transcendental means transcend literally means to go beyond. So we go beyond all the other poles that we are a part of and we focus on the ultimate goal. That is transcendental. And so our sadhana that we do is transcendental, part of transcendental bhakti. And each one of us needs to create that awareness. Because if our awareness is fixed only on, oh, I belong to this family, I belong to this age group, I belong to this gender, then each of over-identification with any of these larger collectives can become a source of conflict. Loving one's country is good. Thinking my country is the best country. Well, okay, that might be as a sentiment, it is good. But my country is the best country and therefore we should conquer all other countries. That would be dictatorial. That was what the Nazi ideology was. That's fascism or Nazism. So when we obsess over any larger whole, a larger collective, we over-identify with it, then that can become a problem. India is among the few countries in the world where language is a cause of conflicts. Not so many other countries. In India, okay, should Hindi be the language, should English be the language, should Marathi be the language, should Tamil be the language, should Telugu be the language? I don't know how many in North India it's an issue. In South India, there are language wars going on. If you are imposing your language on us, you are destroying our culture. Language is important. All those politicians who use language to cause political conflicts, if you ask them, who are the prominent authors in this particular language? What are their prominent books? They have no idea. Isn't it? So their linguistic pride is actually not really based on the greatness of the language or the greatness of literature in the language. It's just a tool to win votes. And people may get deceived by that. So the idea is the transcendental belonging is essential. Otherwise, so if you consider bhakti, the other aspect is it is transformational. Transformational means this is through our seva. Through our seva, what do? We change the collective. We change some collective. Now we might play our role in improving any one particular collective. For example, when Indians go to America or Indians go to the Western world generally, till 5 years almost before, Indians were often considered to be like a model minority. We are minorities in other parts of the world wherever we immigrate. We're model minority because Indians are generally law-abiding, tax-paying, family caring, and America has a welfare system. If you don't have a job, then the government will provide you some money so that you can take care of yourself. So Indians very rarely go on welfare. If say some Gujarati or somebody is bankrupt because the business went off or somebody doesn't have a job, then quite often the community considers a matter of pride for the community that we should take care of our people. Our people should not be dependent. Our people should not require to take money from the state. So Indians were considered model minority. What that means is that Indians, they're belonging there in a harmonious way. That's a good thing. But last 5-7 years, many people have got wealth. And in the past, the Indians that would go to America would really be hardworking, talented, career focused. But now many young people have got wealth, and then they go to the Western world and they just create so much disruption. Rather than belonging over there, they often take the worst parts of Indian culture. The worst parts of Indian culture could be teasing girls in public, or public urination, or just all kinds of noisy and disruptive behaviors. And then there are some countries which say that they don't want Indian tourists to come. So now what is happening is Indian culture, there are wonderful parts about it, but there are not so wonderful parts about it also. And we may say that's not Indian culture, that is whatever it is. But it is there, unfortunately. So the thing is that we want to, whichever larger whole we are a part of, we want to belong harmoniously to that whole. Now we cannot necessarily be harmonious with every single whole that we are a part of. You may decide, this is the, like if Indians go to America, then they may focus on their professional growth, they may focus on their economic growth, but then they cannot really be a part of the family group because their extended family is over here. So sometimes two dharmas may pull us in two different directions. And that is often a concern of many Indians in America. They feel guilty that we are not able to take care of our parents. And that's sadly true. But then the parents are often happy, at least they're proud that my son is in America. And so the thing is that we often have to choose among dharmas. Which dharma I can do, which dharma I cannot do. So if we focus, if in our bhakti we're practicing, it's only transcendental and we don't focus on the transformation at all, then we will end up becoming irresponsible. Because we have to be a part of whatever community we are a part of. So even if say, somebody becomes a brahmachari in future, but even as a brahmachari, you have a role to play. If somebody becomes a brahmachari, then you become a part of the monk community or the renounced order. And then the renounced order, there's a harmonious way to belong to the renounced order. And there's a disharmonious way. Now in India at least people know what it means. I was in America and I went for a college program. There's an American girl asked me a question. She said that, it's a college student, why do religions fight among each other? And then I answered the question elaborately, explaining what, how there's extremism and other things. After the class I was talking with the students and this girl came to me and she said, this question has been burdening me for many years. It was the first time I got a real satisfactory answer. I'm so grateful. Can I give you a hug? Now in India nobody asks this. So now I knew that in the West, hugging is just a part of like a natural expression of affection. So now I can't say yes, obviously. But saying no would be like saying that it would see to Western it might see one culture. So I looked at the preacher who was organizing local devotee, Indian Grihastha devotee was organizing the program. Just said, help me please. So he helped me in a most unexpected way. He stepped forward and said, I am a monk, on his behalf you can hug me. I was thinking that was not what I was expecting. And his wife was next to him. His wife said, I am his wife, on his behalf you can hurt me.
So, in that way, the hug happened harmoniously.
So the point is that if I belong to a particular collective, then I have to function according to the belonging of that collective. But at the same time, I am also part of a larger group. So if we are only transcendental, then we can become irresponsible because we are all parts of a larger group. But if we are focused only on transformation, that means that, okay, I am going to fix things over here. It might be in my college I'll fix things, in my home I'll fix things, in my office I'll fix things, or even in the temple, even in a spiritual community service. I'll fix things in the kitchen, I'll fix things in the preaching, I'll fix things in this. Now that is good. But if you focus only on the transformation, then what will happen is, quite often we end up becoming, have you heard this word control freaks? Control freaks means what? Somebody tries to hyper control everything. Now do it like this only, don't do it like that. And a small thing goes off and they become very angry. So, and once somebody becomes control freak, either they become abusive. Because what happens? Anybody who doesn't listen to them, they start thinking, I am doing this on behalf of God, and if you are not listening to me, you are not just disobeying me, you are offending God, and you will go to hell. If somebody tells people you will go to hell, people will say, first you go to hell right now. I don't care for you. But this is sometimes what happens with people who have a lot of zeal for some cause. Like somebody might be an environmentalist, somebody might be a feminist, somebody might be a nationalist. And these are not bad things. There are many things in these larger whole that could be reformed. But when that becomes the only focus and the transcendental aspect is forgotten, that, see, I am doing this, yes, I'm doing this as a service to God, but the service will succeed as per God's plan, not my plan. And that level of acceptance, that level of humility is lost. If we are transformational, we can become very self-righteous. Either we become abusive or we become bitter. This person is not helping me, that person is not helping me, these people like that people are like that. In the West especially, there's a lot of concern about environmental issues. And of course in India also among the youth it is there. But sometimes it makes some of these environmental activists extremely bitter and abusive about everyone who doesn't care about the environment as much as they care. So sometimes if a parent is a very aggressive environmental activist, the child wants to play with some toy and the parent will say, can't you see this toy is made of plastic? And you are playing with the toy, every child starts playing with the toy like this, and because of this toy that you are playing with, there will be like 1 million tons of pollution because of that. And you guilt the child for playing with one toy. Our cause our zeal for a particular thing should not steal away our humanity, isn't it? So if we over-identify with a particular, like somebody is a parent. Now being a parent is important. It's one of the most important responsibilities somebody can take. But sometimes, have you heard of this term called helicopter parenting? No. Like, helicopter parenting is, wherever the child goes, the parent is there like helicopter. Monitoring every single thing that the child is doing. The child has no space to grow. The parents have to actually be protected. But one part of protecting the child is also training the child to protect himself or herself. We have to let the child grow up also. So any role that we play, it's important to play that role. But if we over-identify with that, then that will be a problem. So the balance is there is transcendental and transformation. So when we have this transcendental understanding that I belong to Krishna and I will always belong to Krishna. So through our sadhana, whatever happens in our life, we will be peaceful. That I always am a part of Krishna and I will always be a part of Krishna. We'll get a deep sense of security. So to the extent we connect with Krishna as the largest whole that I belong to, the one largest collective from which I will never lose my place. And then we find out whatever role we are playing, the transformational part will make us purposeful. So, Bhakti is a combination of being peaceful and being purposeful. Arjuna was peaceful that I'm aligned with Krishna's will. I'm playing my part in Krishna's plan. But that peaceful did not mean passive. He was ready to fight a war. He was purposeful. So this is the blessing that Krishna offers us when we descend to this world. That what Krishna wants to awaken us to Dharma means he wants each one of us to become peaceful and purposeful. So peaceful that even if I make mistakes, even if the world manipulates me, even if things go wrong, Krishna will never abandon me. I'll always be a part of Krishna. Purposeful means Krishna has given me some talents, Krishna has given me some abilities, Krishna has given me some interests, Krishna has given me some resources. So let me use these to decide how I can best operate. And that way every devotee can have a renewed sense of purpose. And just as Arjuna got that, on one side Krishna, at the end of the Gita, Arjuna says, Nashto moha smritir labdha tat prasadam mayachutam. So sthitosmi gata sandeha. That sthitosmi gata sandeha, that 18.73, the third line is saying I become peaceful. I become well situated. Sthitosmi gata sandeha. All my doubts, all my turbulence is gone. I become peaceful. And at 18.73d, Karishye vachanam tava. I will do your will. That is the indication that Krishna has inspired Arjuna also to become purposeful. I'll summarize what I discussed today. So, the broad topic we discussed today was the role of how the divine descent matters for us. What is the significance of the Lord's descent into this world? That when Krishna descends to this world, how is it significant? So I discussed it broadly in 3 parts. The first part we discussed is that how we may have, with respect to we and Krishna, we may initially have a law-centered vision. And in that law-centered vision, it is that when there's a minor trouble, we go to Krishna. When there is a major trouble, Krishna comes to us. So, in that context, we may feel always there's a major trouble, isn't it? So, what does Krishna do? When Krishna says Dharma samsthapanarthaya, so that Dharma samsthapan, Dharma has a timely aspect to it. And Krishna comes at a particular time, but there's also a timeless aspect to it. And the timely aspect is the collective change, that is collective dharma. That is what Krishna talks about in 4.8. The timeless aspect is Krishna inspires the individual dharma. So we discuss these 2 dynamics of dharma a little bit more in detail. So dharma broadly means that we belong to a larger whole and we have to do something for the whole, that is the individual dharma. And the whole has to do something for that is the collective dharma. So in general, the political right is concerned about the individual fitting into the system. The political left is more concerned about the system being reformed so that things work out better. Now, at different times, different things are required. Now, we talked about Krishna, that Krishna is not just a protector, Krishna is also an empowerer. Now, when we understand that we are not just like a citizen who will be protected, but Krishna wants each one of us to become like a warrior. So Krishna wants us to play our part. So we discussed how we are always parts of Krishna, and that means always we have a part in Krishna's plan. So now, what exactly is that part? That has multiple aspects to it. We discussed like when you belong to a team, there is a fixed aspect to it. The fixed aspect is based broadly on the talent and the training, like in a cricket team. But then there is a flexible aspect to it. And the flexible aspect is based on the strategy and the need. So like that, for each one of us, we discussed about how when we talk about dharma is multi-level. We belong to many poles. We belong to a family, we belong to a community, we belong to a country. And ultimately, the one whole that contains all other wholes, that is Krishna. So, our service to Krishna is a part of our transcendental dharma. And our roles in the various other dharmas, those are part of the transformational. So Bhakti itself is a combination of both the transformational and the transcendental. We discussed Krishna is not just the largest whole, Krishna is also the largest whole who sustains all other wholes. So when we practice Bhakti, if it is only transcendental, that means what will happen by that? We will not play our role, we will end up becoming irresponsible. Krishna says, Utpata eva kalpate. No, like this. Utsideyo rime loka na kuryat san karma chedaham. Utsideyo rime loka. Then you will create disruption. So we discussed that when we belong to Krishna, we discussed one more thing, how our desires, which are often disruptive or destructive. So those desires get purified by Bhakti. And then each one of us can play our role better. The desire is purified. So whether it is our ultimate dharma or our dharma to various other belongings. So now on the other hand, we focus only on the transformational part. Then what will happen is, we will become very bitter. Because if somebody doesn't help us, somebody doesn't cooperate, we will think we can handle it. Because the balance is that it's both. Knowing that we will always be a part of Krishna, that makes us peaceful. And knowing that we have a role in this world makes us purposeful. And in this way, this is the gift that Krishna gives to everyone in this world. Just as Krishna gave to Arjuna a sense of peace and a sense of purpose. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Let us pray to Krishna. My dear Lord, help me to have peace by knowing that I am always your part, and help me to find my purpose so that I can best contribute in this world while I make my path to you eternally. Shri Krishna Bhagwan ki
Jai.
Thank you very much. Do we have a few minutes for questions?
One or two questions.
Yes, please.
Exactly.
Hare Krishna. No, I wanted to ask that you mentioned that we could change the collective circle that is there. We could stay there or stay and try to change, or we could just change it. So how do we know that what is Krishna's plan in that case? Whether we have to change it or we have to switch that circle?
Yeah. See, one part of Krishna's plan is that we can't know Krishna's plan. What I mean is that, See, Krishna doesn't want us to become like pre-programmed zombies or robots. So Krishna's plan, if you see with Arjuna also, it's not that when Arjuna was fighting a war, Krishna was controlling every single arrow that Arjuna was shooting. It's not that Arjuna had to ask Krishna, can I shoot this arrow? Can I shoot this arrow? No. Arjuna was his own individual and Krishna let him be that individual. Like a good captain may tell a bowler that you bowl outside the hostel or whatever. But it's not that a good captain will be running to the bowler after each ball and telling, don't bowl like this, bowl like this. Maybe in very crucial stages of the match, like that. But no bowler will like to be that much controlled by captain. So Krishna's plan is not so much like a thin, narrow line. It's more like a broad direction. So it's not that just you have to go on this path only. So basically, we are in, let's take another example to illustrate this point. That this is the top of the mountain, this is the ocean. Now from the river, from the ocean, from the mountain, a river is going toward the ocean. So all the rivers are meant to go to the ocean ultimately. But each river finds its own way toward the ocean. Now, some rivers may go on a more complicated way. Each river will meet its own obstacle. And each river will find its way to deal with the obstacle. If you consider among the Pandavas, if you look at, say, Yudhishthira and Bhima. Now, sometimes, if you meet two brothers, like in America, when I go somewhere, there are two brothers, both have become devotees, or very, very simple. When they see two brothers, you try to see what are the similarities, what are the differences between them. Now, if you look at Yudhishthira and Bhima, it's difficult to think of two brothers who could be more dissimilar than them. Isn't both of them are Kshatriyas, technically speaking, but he was more like a Brahman Kshatriya. Yudhishthira, had try to solve everything by discussion, negotiation, bend backward to avoid conflict. But Bhima was more like a Kshatriya. We could say a Kshatriya squared. He would be itching for a fight. It is not that to become a devotee and play a part in Krishna's plan, Yudhishthira had to become Bhima or Bhima had to become Yudhishthira. They were both individuals. So that's why each one of us has to consider. Broadly speaking, we need to look at, this is a whole different class about finding our purpose or what could be our purpose. But if we are moving towards our purpose in life, we'll feel as if we have some breathing air. So we look at our abilities, then we look at our interests. So, and then we look at our resources. Abilities, interests, and resources. And based on that, we decide. So the Pandavas, when they found that they had been attempted to be burnt alive in Varanasi, they decided that this is not just an individual hatred of Duryodhana. This is a much bigger conspiracy. To erect a whole palace, to arrange, to have them sent to a completely different place. Who all among the elders are into this conspiracy? They decided this is a dangerous thing, let's get out of here. So after Bhima was poisoned and survived, this came back to the kingdom. They thought that this might just be Duryodhana's solitary hatred or agenda. So they went out and they stayed incognito for some time till they allied with Drupada, who was a powerful rival king. When they married his daughter, then Dhritarashtra could no longer neglect them. And even after that, when they came back, they didn't just belong to the same collective. They were given in a Khanda Prastha, they converted into the Prastha. So each one of us has to make our decisions. We can take guidance from senior devotees, we can pray to Krishna, We can use our intelligence. So broadly speaking, these are the primary things we should look for. What are my abilities? What are my interests or inspiration? I may have ability to do something, but I may not feel so driven to do something. So another way to understand this is that look inward to see what are my interests. So look inward to what are my abilities. Look outward to look at what are the resources, and then look outward. Great question. So look inward to see what is my inspiration. Look outward to take guidance from others, to understand what resources we have, to understand what we are likely to be able to do. And then look upward. So for example, many Indians, they emigrated from India to America. But now the Indian economy is also booming. So in the last 10 years or so, it's not booming, it's improving. Well, I think many Indians from America want to come back to India. And they settle in upscale gated communities. And they try to belong over here. So that is something which is a very careful individual decision has to be taken. But praying to Krishna and consulting with others. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Jai Gaur Premanande.